In the last sessions on history, we talked about the political instability in India during the period of late 18th century, and as a result, the collapse of Mughal Empire was seen. After the decline of Mughal Empire, we saw that there were independent states that grew. Now, when these independent states came to power, it was important to understand that there was mutual rivalry, mutiny within themselves, and this led to collapse of most of the independent states, and the foreign dominion also got prominent. The foreigners came to India mainly as traders, but slowly they changed from traders to rulers, and that's what we would understand in this lecture. So Europeans primarily came to India as traders, and how from a trading community they transformed into a ruling community. We would first talk about the Portuguese who came to India, then the French who came to India, English who came to India, and how English actually won over the French, and finally English is established, or British supremacy established in India, and they moved from East India Company to British political power as a supreme power in India. So thus, this is the essence of this lecture. In this, we would focus on the two major battles, the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar, and the various wars which were fought with the English. So the one of which was the Anglo-French War, where English got a hold and French had to withdraw. Then we would talk about the Anglo-Maratha wars, where there was a war between British and the Marathas, which went for nearly 43 years. We would also focus on the Anglo-Mysore wars, the wars which went for a period of more than 30 years. And then we would talk about the Anglo-Sikh relations in India. So that would be the basis for this lecture and the various treaties which were signed after. In India, traders came to India. It was mainly from Portugal, Holland, England, France that traders started to come in India. In this section, we would understand Portuguese traders. Now, the traders who came to India established factories, and the commercial agents who helped in establishment were known as factors. Now, three important factories were established in India by Portuguese. So we are focusing only on Portuguese right now. So these three important factories which were established by Portuguese were at Cochin, Kannur, also written as Kannur, and then at Calicut or Kozhikode. So those were the three areas where factories were established by Portuguese. Then it was important to note that colonial empire started to expand, and it was in the region of Goa, Daman. Then you had the region of Celeste Island, Bassein in the regions close to Mumbai. Then on the east coast it was Chittagong, which is in present day Bangladesh. Then it was the region of Hooghly in the parts of India, where the establishments started. In 1602, it was the Dutch establishment, and Dutch East India Company started to trade with India. So Dutch East India Company started to trade with India, and there were numerous trading centers which were established. Some of the important trading centers, as we can see, were Agra, Patna, Chinsurya, the regions of Hooghly, Machilipatnam, Nagapatnam, the parts of Khambhat, Bharuch on the west coast, Ahmedabad on the west coast, Mumbai, Goa were some of the areas through which trade started through the Dutch East India Company. So the advent of Portuguese in India, the establishment of factories by Portuguese, and the major centers where they were established. The next to the Portuguese important one is the French East India Company that came to India in 1664. Now, French East India Company was part of the home government and had to take permissions from the home government for any kind of capital invasion or any kind of war that has to be raised. The capital was established at Puducherry. There were various centers of the French East India Company that came to India. So it was Karaikal, Warangal and Machilipatnam on the east, Mahe on the west, and then Chandarnagar in the regions of Bengal. So those were some of the important centers of French colony. It was later that the Anglo-French War was fought, and this was a series of 3 wars which was fought over a period of nearly 20 years, known as the Carnatic Wars. And as a result of this Carnatic War, in 1760 Battle of Wandiwash was fought, and under the Battle of Wandiwash, which was fought in the state of Tamil Nadu, it was the French which had to surrender, and finally British had their supremacy. So we have understood the Portuguese and the French settlements in India. Coming on to the English settlements and the English trading company in India. It was East India Company that started in 1600 with Captain Hawkins, and later it was Thomas Roe who gave a farman to Jahangir to establish a factory in the region of Surat. In the south, it was Machilipatnam or Masulipatnam where the first factory was established, and this was in 1611. From Masulipatnam, the factory was shifted to Madras or the present day Chennai in 1639. Then was the side of Mumbai. The story of Mumbai is again interesting. The East India Company acquired the region of Mumbai from King Charles II. So King Charles II actually married a Portuguese princess. So it was acquired by King Charles II when he married a Portuguese princess from Mumbai, and Mumbai came in as a dowry to King Charles II. So Mumbai was again brought. Then was the region of Hooghly. So here in the region of West Bengal, Hooghly came as a major center, and it was in the year 1640. Later on in 1680, 3 important villages were brought together. Those were Govindpur, the village of Kalikatta, and the village which was known as Sutanati, which was in the region of present day Sowa Bazar. So together Kalikatta, Govindpur and Sutanati, the 3 villages as of now are incorporated into a common region, and that is the region of Kolkata. So Kolkata became one of the major trading centers of British East India Company, and this was one of the center powers for political power as well, because this was the point where they started with the mutiny, and Mir Zafar came to power in the Battle of Plassey. Then was the revolt by Mir Kazim in the Battle of Buxar, and finally with the Treaty of Allahabad, the Battle of Buxar ended. So this was one of the reasons why British government, why East India Company actually shifted from a trading company to a administrative company after the Treaty of Allahabad, which was signed as a consequence of the culmination of Battle of Buxar. So this was about the major centers which were established by English, the major factories that were laid down at various locations, and the 3 important villages. Those are the Sutanati, Kalikatta and Govindpur, together forming the region of present day Kolkata, which finally emerged as one of the major centers which actually started the whole story of British advent and British. As we had understood, 3 important foreign establishments in India were the Portuguese settlements, the French settlements and the English settlements. However, there was a war between the English settlements and the French colonies. Now, English who came to India were in constant wars with the French, and these wars were seen as 3 important wars during the period of 1744 to 1763, and these were called as the Carnatic Wars. Now this war was primarily in the region of Tamil Nadu, as you can see, and this was the area which was known as Wandiwash, and this was where the Battle of Wandiwash took place in 1760, and finally English won. French had to withdraw, and there was the capture of the region of Puducherry by English in 1761. So in 1761, French lost all their possessions in India. The final possession went to the English, and that was the Puducherry in 1761. At the Battle of Wandiwash, it was General Eyre or Lord Eyre who actually defeated Lally, who was a French. Now the French were defeated by the English, and from the English it was Eyre, Lord Eyre, and the other side was Lally, and this was the Battle of Wandiwash. Extremely important, the Anglo-French rivalry. The battle was known as Battle of Wandiwash in 1760, and the three important wars, the Carnatic Wars, which formed the basis for the collapse of the French in India, the French settlements, French colonies in India, and finally the start of the British rule in India. To develop as an independent state under Murshid Quli Khan. After Murshid Quli Khan, Ali Vardi Khan was one of the major leaders, and after Ali Vardi Khan, it was Sirajud-Dowla. However, Sirajud-Dowla was one of the weak rulers. He actually occupied the Fort William in Calcutta in the year 1756. But as soon as he occupied the Fort William, there was a news in the English system that the fort has been occupied by Sirajud-Dowla. Hearing this, Robert Clive marched from Madras to Calcutta. So he moved from Madras to Calcutta in order to enforce the command in the region of Kolkata, and there a conspiracy was raised against the Nawab. Now, as the conspiracy was raised against Nawab, who were the main three players of it? The three main players of it were Rai Durlab, he was the treasurer to the Nawab; Mir Zafar, he was the commander-in-chief of the Nawab; and then we had Jagat Seth, he was the richest banker of Bengal. Now, amongst these, Mir Jafar, who was the commander-in-chief, joined with Robert Clive, and when he joined with Robert Clive, it was an important point that this started with the Battle of Plassey. But the most important thing among the controversy here were the three people who conspired against the Nawab: Rai Durlab, the treasurer; Mir Jafar, the commander-in-chief; and Jagat Seth, who was a banker in that time. All of these three combinedly had a conspiracy against Sirajud-Dowla, and this was one of the reasons that Mir Jafar ultimately came to power after the Battle of Plassey. So we would understand that. Let's talk about Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey was one of the major battles that changed the India's position, and British became one of the important powers in India. Now Plassey, as you can see, is located in the region of Bengal, and another important battle was Battle of Buxar, which we would cover separately. Now Battle of Plassey was fought in 1757. If we go back to the history, as we knew, in the region of the independent state of Bengal, which incorporates the present day Bengal, Bihar and the parts of Odisha. So this whole belt, which is incorporated in that time region of Bengal state, was under Murshid Quli Khan. After Murshid Quli Khan, we had Ali Vardi Khan as one of the major leaders, and then Sirajud-Dowla. But Robert Clive moved to Calcutta from Madras, and Robert Clive moved to Calcutta. The major reason of moving of Robert Clive to Calcutta was that Fort William was captured by Sirajud-Dowla, and Robert Clive actually wanted to have a conspiracy against Sirajud-Dowla. As a result, one of his commander-in-chief, who was Mir Jafar, was joined with Robert Clive, or we can say with the English, and as part of this conspiracy, Mir Jafar came to power. As soon as Mir Jafar came to power, East India Company had given the rights to trade in the region of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. However, Mir Jafar, in lieu to that, gave the region of 24 Parganas. So the region of 24 Parganas and 1 crore was given to the East India Company. Now British, this was the point when they transformed from traders to a political power. As a result, a lot of resources from Bengal were exploited. The private traders who were working in the regions of Bengal had to produce at a very cheap rate. Nawab treasury started to get empty. Now, seeing this, Mir Jafar was not happy. As a result, he was not working in line with the company rules and was disposed of. As he was disposed, Mir Kazim was brought to power. Now, Mir Kazim was the new Nawab and he was the son-in-law of Mir Jafar. Mir Kazim, who was the son-in-law of Mir Jafar, was brought to power. However, Mir Kazim also objected to the misuse of the territorial regulations which were there. Abuse of the duty-free inland trade was affecting the revenue, and this was again something which Mir Kazim was not happy with. As a result, Mir Kazim trained his army to fight the Europeans. Also, one more important thing was he shifted the capital from Murshidabad to Munger in present-day Bihar. British did not like it, and this was one of the reasons that the next battle, which was the Battle of Buxar, was laid down, and then started the Battle of Buxar. So, Battle of Plassey was actually a battle to remove Sirajuddaulah and make Mir Jafar as the governor of Bengal, and this conspiracy laid the founding grounds for bringing East India Company as a trading company to British as a political power in India. Of Plassey, how Mir Jafar came to power as part of conspiracy. However, later Mir Jafar was disposed and Mir Kazim was brought to power. Mir Kazim did not like or agreed with the British policies. He actually challenged the company and a war broke out. This was the beginning of the Battle of Buxar. In 1764, he fled to the region of Awadh in the present-day Uttar Pradesh, but Mir Kazim actually could not fight alone, so he formed an alliance. His alliance included Nawab of Awadh, Shah Alam, who was a Mughal ruler during that time, the Nawab of Awadh and the Nawab of Awadh, who was Shahjuddaulah. Now, together these three met against the British forces at Buxar, and in 1764 was the Battle of Buxar. However, at this point, British won. Mir Kazim was defeated and Mir Kazim was removed. However, at this point, Mir Jafar was again made the Nawab for the second time. Shah Alam II, who was the Mughal emperor, took the sides of British. However, Nawab of Awadh surrendered. The victory of Buxar actually was the foundation for Britishers to become one of the strongest power in India. And then in the year 1765, it was Treaty of Allahabad which was signed, and this Treaty of Allahabad was between the Nawab of Awadh and Robert Clive. So between the Nawab of Awadh and Robert Clive was this Treaty of Allahabad signed. As this treaty, the Nawab of Awadh surrendered the region of Allahabad as well as Kara to Shah Alam and paid nearly 50 lakh to the East India Company. So that was the transition under the Treaty of Allahabad, where the Nawab of Awadh surrendered the region of Allahabad and Kara to Shah Alam II and paid 50 lakhs as a payment towards the company. Now Shah Alam was granted the right to Diwani over the regions of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha on a permanent basis to the British. British company in lieu agreed to pay rupees 26 lakh annually to Shah Alam II. So this was for the very first time that company got directly involved in the administrative process. How company got involved in the administrative process? I'll repeat again, because under the Treaty of Allahabad, the Nawab of Awadh and Robert Clive signed an agreement. As a result, Nawab of Awadh gave the region of Allahabad and Kara to Shah Alam II and 50 lakh to the company. Now, the Nawab of Awadh, who had given the regions of Allahabad and Kara to Shah Alam was granted also during this time the right to Diwani over the regions of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha on a permanent basis to British, and in lieu for that, the British paid 26 lakhs annually to Shah Alam. That means Britishers were now directly controlling the administration in India and moved from being a trader to an administrative power in India. Followed the Battle of Plassey and finally the Battle of Buxar. Battle of Plassey, which took place in 1757, Battle of Buxar in 1764, and after that the concept of dual government or diarchy was brought by Robert Clive in 1765. As a part of the concept of dual government of diarchy, the Nawab had the administrative power. So Nawab had the power to maintain the law and order as well as the criminal proceedings, which were called as the Nizamat. On the other hand, company was controlling the military. So company controlled the military and enjoyed the right to collect Diwani. Now the right was conferred on the company by whom? This right was confirmed by Shah Alam II under the Treaty of Allahabad, which was held at Buxar. Now, since company had the right to Diwani, company enjoyed the power, but company had no responsibility for the welfare of the citizens. So the welfare of citizens was, or the welfare of subjects was not the responsibility of the company. Company did not interfere in the internal affairs of the region. But slowly, it was the time when the famine hit India in 1770, and at that point, the extensive corruption and inefficiencies in the government were brought, and it was during this time of the Bengal famine that nearly 1/3 people lost their lives. When 1/3 people were losing their lives, then in 1772, Warren Hastings was appointed as the governor. Now, Warren Hastings, who was appointed as the governor in 1772, he came to power and immediately abolished the system of dual government or diarchy. So, it was brought by Robert Clive, abolished by Warren Hastings. The system of dual government or diarchy was removed. The next was the Regulating Act. Regulating Act was brought in 1773, and this changed the function of East India Company from actually a trading company to officially an administrative power. We had seen that in Battle of Buxar already the ruling went into the hands of the British. However, officially it changed from a trading power to an administrative power after the Regulating Act, and company had the necessary powers for administration in the province of Bengal. Even the governor of Bengal now became the Governor General. So another important step which was witnessed here as part of the Regulating Act was the Governor of Bengal was now the Governor General. The next was the idea of subsidiary alliance. The subsidiary alliance was brought by Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley brought the concept of subsidiary alliance similar to the dual government or the diarchy by Robert Clive. Under the system of subsidiary alliance, which was brought by Lord Wellesley, who was the British Governor General of Bengal from 1798 to 1805, there was a mandatory compilation by the Indian states to have a permanent British force within their territory. So what was the idea? The idea was the Indian states must have a permanent British force within the territory and pay subsidy for the maintenance. So they had to pay the subsidy for the maintenance. Now, they were said that the idea was to protect the king or the Nawab. But this was actually a tribute to the company. So company said that why we are doing so? The reason is we are protecting the king. But actually this was a tribute to the company. Without the approval of the Britishers, no European would be employed in the service of the king. That was another important thing, and there was no idea to negotiate with any other Indian ruler without consulting the Governor General. So two important ideas, besides the fact that the Indian states had to maintain a permanent British force. The first thing was Indian state must have a permanent British force. The second important thing was no European can be recruited without the British permissions. And the third was, even if there are two other Indian rulers who want to negotiate, they would have to consult the Governor General. So the role of Governor General became important. And this was the idea. Now this in turn took place where Britishers defended the rulers from their enemies, but they at the same time said that they won't interfere with the internal affairs policy. So they were, ideally they were to defend the Indian states from the neighboring states or from the other attacks, and they were not to speak in the internal affair matters. However, this concept failed, and that was one of the reasons for the Anglo-Mysore War which took place. Why this failed? Because they had promised that they would defend the Indian states, but Mysore was not defended when Marathas attacked Mysore, and this was one of the reasons that Hyder Ali from Mysore actually started a revolution against the English forces, which led to the Anglo-Mysore Wars, the series of Anglo-Mysore Wars. It is important to note that as part of the subsidiary alliance, the Nawab of Hyderabad signed the Treaty of Subsidiary Alliance in 1978 and 1800. So it was the region of Hyderabad which was under the subsidiary alliance. So this was about understanding what were the three important developments post the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. These were the system of dual government or diarchy, where both company as well as the Indian state had their important positions. The next was the Regulating Act, and finally was the Subsidiary Alliance, where Indian states had to maintain a permanent British force, pay subsidy, and the British government said that this was actually a tribute to their government. However, there were no Europeans to be recruited without the British approval, and the two states cannot negotiate without the interference of the Governor General. So those were some of the developments. Four Anglo-Mysore War took place in a period of nearly 30 years from 1767 to 1799. The series of four Anglo-Mysore Wars are very interesting. The first Anglo-Mysore War actually was between Hyder Ali and the combined forces of British, the Nizam of Hyderabad, and the Marathas. So together three came in power against Hyder Ali, and this was the time that Britishers were forced to sign a peace treaty. They signed a peace treaty in 1769. As a result of this peace treaty, Mysore on one side and this alliance on the other side would protect one another in case there is an attack by any third power, and that was the basic idea behind the first Anglo-Mysore War. However, there was a second Anglo-Mysore War which took place in 1780, from 1780 to 1784, and this was the time when Hyder Ali was actually attacked by the Maratha forces. When Hyder Ali was attacked by the Maratha forces, Hyder Ali revenged and said that Britishers should have come and interfered because this was part of the peace treaty. Britishers did not help, and as a result, Hyder Ali again started the war. Now, during that time, Warren Hastings was the Governor General, and Warren Hastings bribed the Nawab of the Nizam of Hyderabad and signed a peace treaty with Marathas. So they signed a peace treaty with Maratha and they bribed the Nizam of Hyderabad. In this second Anglo-Mysore war, it was during 1782 that Hyder Ali died. However, his son Tipu Sultan continued with the war and ultimately to end this war in 1784, the Treaty of Mangalore was signed. So the Treaty of Mangalore was signed as a result of the ending or the culmination of the Second Anglo-Mysore War. The Third Anglo-Mysore War is important. Here there was an alliance of Britishers, Nizams and Marathas, but on the other side, in the region of Mysore, it was no more Hyder Ali now, but it was Tipu Sultan. Tipu Sultan was badly defeated in the Third Anglo-Mysore War and was forced to sign a treaty in 1792, and this was known as the Treaty of Srirangapatnam. Srirangapatnam was the place where Tipu Sultan lost his life during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, and this was when Lord Wellesley actually wanted Tipu Sultan to accept the subsidiary alliance, but this was the time that Tipu Sultan refused. When Tipu Sultan refused, there was a war that broke out. Britishers joined with the Nizam. At this time, Marathas were neutral. They did not join any other, and French support was not there. So there was a battle between the Nizam and the Britishers on one side and Tipu Sultan on the other side. Tipu Sultan was killed in this battle in 1799 at Srirangapatnam, where the Treaty of Srirangapatnam was signed after the Third Anglo-Mysore War. And after Tipu Sultan was killed, Mysore was divided into pockets. Half of the Mysore went with the British and the Nizam. So the red region, as you can see, was the region which went to the British. The blue region went to the Nizam. The remaining region was given to the ruler of Mysore, from whom Hyder Ali occupied the region of Mysore. So this was the history of the four Anglo-Mysore wars, which ran for nearly a period of 30 years and finally ended with British actually expanding their empire or hold over this region, and Nizam joining with the British army, but Tipu Sultan standed against and fought for the similar to the Anglo-Mysore wars. There was a series of Anglo-Maratha war. Important to note, there were 4 Anglo-Mysore wars and 3 Anglo-Maratha wars. These 3 Anglo-Maratha wars went on for a period of 43 years. The 4 Mysore wars went on for a period of 30 years. Now, note, the first Anglo-Maratha war was from 1775 to 1782. The idea was the issue which was mainly for the succession of throne of Peshwa. So who would be on the throne of Peshwa was the main idea under the first Anglo-Maratha war. So war was fought when Warren Hastings was in power, and Warren Hastings was the Governor General. At the end of the war, the culmination of the war ended with the treaty, and this was known as the Treaty of Salbai. In the Anglo-Mysore War, we had seen that the second Anglo-Mysore War ended with the Treaty of Mangalore, and the third Anglo-Mysore War ended with the Treaty of Srirangapatnam. In the first Anglo-Maratha War, Treaty of Salbai is extremely important, and then started the second Maratha War from 1803 to 1806, and this was the time when Wellesley was the Governor General. In the first Anglo-Maratha War, it was Warren Hastings. In the second Anglo-Maratha War, it was Wellesley. Now in 1803, we know Baji Rao II. So Baji Rao II signed with the East India Company a subsidiary alliance. Now when they signed a subsidiary alliance, this was the time where another treaty was signed, and in 1806, Treaty of Bassein was signed. So, the first Anglo-Maratha War ended with the Treaty of Salbai. The second Anglo-Maratha War ended with the Treaty of Bassein, followed by the third Anglo-Maratha War from 1817 to 1818. Now, the Maratha chiefs were left humiliated after signing the subsidiary alliance with the British. So, Baji Rao too started a plan to unite Marathas against the British. We had already studied that Maratha Confederacy was established. So, five different political powers of Maratha units were there. Those were the Bhosle, the Holkars, the Scindias, the Gaikwads, and this was during the third Anglo-Maratha War that the governor generalship of Marquis of Hastings was important. So, Baji Rao too during this time raised the army and attacked the British residency in Pune. So when Baji Rao too attacked the British residency in Pune in 1817, the rulers from Nagpur and Indore held him. So two confederacies of the Marathas from Nagpur and Indore actually helped Baji Rao too when Baji Rao too attacked onto the British residency in Pune. The Marathas at this point were defeated. However, it was the abolition of the title, the hereditary title of Peshwa or the hereditary office of Peshwa that took place, and Britishers after this Anglo-Maratha war emerged as an unchallenged power in India. So this was the time that Britishers became an unchallenged power in India. And this was after the third Anglo-Maratha War. So, three Anglo-Maratha wars which took place between Britishers and Marathas or the Peshwas. It's important to note that when Anglo-Mysore War was there, in the first two wars, Peshwas or Marathas were with the British in a coalition against the Mysore, but towards the end, Marathas became to remain neutral, and this was one of the reasons that the Anglo-Maratha War was waged against the Marathas by the Britishers as well, finally leading to the defeat of Marathas and establishment of British as an unchallenged power in India. Relations. We have understood how Anglo-Mysore War and Anglo-Maratha Wars were one of the major milestones for establishment of power, the British power in India, and similarly in the north was the Anglo-Sikh War. So till the time Maharaja Ranjit Singh was in power, he maintained a strong army who was trained in European traditions. After his death in 1839, there was political instability in the region of Punjab, and the next 6 years were the years of conflict. At this time, Khalsa, which was the army, was organized, and the minor son of Ranjit Singh, who was Dalip Singh, was brought to power, but Dalip Singh was under his mother Jindan Kaur. Now Jindan Kaur instigated Khalsa against the British and started what was known as the First Anglo-Sikh War. Now this First Anglo-Sikh War, which was in 1845, was laid down. However, Jindan Kaur was defeated and had to sign a treaty. This was the Treaty of Lahore. Now the treaties are extremely important. We have seen in Maratha, the Anglo-Maratha War, it was the Treaty of Salbai and Treaty of Bassein in the first and the second Anglo-Maratha War. In the second and the third Anglo-Mysore War, it was Treaty of Mangalore and Treaty of Srirangapatnam, which was there. Under the first Anglo-Sikh War, it was the Treaty of Lahore. Under this treaty, Sikh lost all their territory and have to keep a British resident. Now, since they had to keep a British resident, they also had to sell Kashmir to Raja Gulab Singh. So, Kashmir was sold to Raja Gulab Singh, and this was the time that a sum of nearly 1 sterling pounds was paid as a result of the war. So 1 sterling pound was paid as a result of the war. However, even after the defeat of First Anglo-Sikh War, refused that they were defeated. And as a result, in few more times, in 1848, another war started. However, the army was already reduced after the First Anglo-Sikh War, and as a result, they could not come to power. Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General, and Lord Dalhousie annexed Punjab. Now, the role of Lord Dalhousie is also extremely interesting. However, we would cover that separately. But here, it's important to understand that it was at this time that Maharaja Dalip Singh was pensioned off and sent to England, and this was the end of the Anglo-Sikh mutiny, and finally Britishers established their hold in the regions of Punjab in north. So Maharaja Dalip Singh was sent to England at that time. So this was about the Anglo-Sikh relation. A policy of expansion, and his idea of expansion was mainly through annexation. Annexing the various areas on different terms was his basis. Now, the first way he annexed was through war and conquest. So the one important war that we understood as part of Anglo-Sikh War was the annexation of Punjab, where Dalip Singh was disposed of and sent to England. Similarly, it was the capture of Bengal, the capture of Mysore, the Maratha state. All the areas where war took place and annexation took place were Punjab, Bengal, Mysore, Maratha, Sindh, parts of Burma and parts of Nepal, right? Then there was another important rule, which was doctrine of lapse. Doctrine of lapse said that only if you have a natural heir, that would be, the state would be passed to the natural heir after the death of the king. However, if there is an adopted child, the adopted child would not have the rights. Now, considering this doctrine of lapse, which was brought by Lord Dalhousie, now it's important to note, Robert Clive brought the dual system. Similarly, Wellesley brought the subsidiary alliance, and doctrine of lapse was brought by Lord Dalhousie. Under doctrine of lapse, only if you have a natural heir, after your death, the state would be passed to your natural heir. In case it's not the said phenomena, the adopted child would not have the right over it. And as a result, numerous regions were annexed. What were the important regions? Satara, Jhansi, Udaipur, Bhagat. Then we had Nagpur, Sambalpur as the important areas which were annexed because of the doctrine of lapse. The third was the idea of misgovernance. Now, the only state which was declared as misgovernance or maladministration was Awadh, and the Nawab of Awadh was removed, making or assuring the people that Awadh, the people were extremely unhappy, and there was an instant need to free the people from the mismanagement, but people ultimately got no relief. So misgovernance was another ground based on which Awadh state was annexed. The next was abolition of titles. Now, abolition of titles and pensions of the childless Indian rulers after their death and annexation of their territories was another important part. So, Arcot and Tanjore were annexed on these grounds, that there was abolition of title and the pensions of the childless Indian rulers after their death was taken in. Now, Nana Sahib, who was the adopted son of Baji Rao II, was not given pension, and the title of Mughal Empire discontinued after Bahadur Shah II. So, those are another good two examples of abolition of titles and not giving the position to the childless Indian rulers. The next was by subsidiary alliance. So, by the means of subsidiary alliance, it was the region of Hyderabad, which we had already studied, Bellari, Kudappa, Rohilkhand, and Gorakhpur, which were annexed on these grounds. Besides these, there was also annexation of the regions of Sikkim, Bihar, Karnataka, Pune, which was done. So the expansionist policies of Lord Dalhousie are extremely important to know, and it's important to understand that there were various ways through which the policies of expansion and annexation took place, mainly on the grounds of doctrine of lapse, war and conquest, misgovernance, that is abolition of titles. But to quickly summarize what we have covered in this lecture, three important aspects which have been covered: the concept of dual government, which was brought by Robert Clive. Later on, Lord Wellesley brought the idea of subsidiary alliance, followed by doctrine of lapse by Lord Dalhousie. Now, doctrine of lapse was very important because Lord Dalhousie played an extremely important role in annexation of territories. Now, three important wars were fought: 4 Anglo-Mysore wars, 3 Anglo-Maratha wars, and then the Anglo-Sikh war. Among the Anglo-Mysore war, the first Anglo-Mysore war ended with a peace treaty. The second Anglo-Mysore war ended with the Treaty of Mangalore. The third Anglo-Mysore war ended with the Treaty of Srirangapatnam. So the important treaties in each of these are extremely important to note. So the Treaty of Mangalore, the Treaty of Srirangapatnam, between the Anglo-French, there was a rivalry and a battle, and Battle of Wandiwash took place. Similarly, there was Battle of Plassey, followed by Battle of Buxar. At the culmination of Battle of Buxar was the Treaty of at the end of the Battle of Buxar, we had seen that there was the Treaty of Allahabad, which was signed, and then we had three important Anglo-Maratha war. After the first Anglo-Maratha war, it was the Treaty of Salbai. After the second Anglo-Maratha war, it was the Treaty of Bassein. And the first Anglo-Sikh war, which was with Jindan Kaur and the British forces, ended with the Treaty of Lahore and the defeat of Jindan Kaur, who was the mother of Dalip Singh, son of Ranjit Singh, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Now, these were the important treaties which were signed, the important laws which were brought under British regime, and this was the transition period where we understand that traders started to become the rulers in this move. So this was about understanding the chapter on traders to rulers. We would be covering the remaining chapters. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day.